Welcome to Star Wars Jedi Survivor review, you fly-swatting bastards. Finally time to put thoughts into the video after beating the game on highest difficulty. It is gonna be a shorter review than usual, so gonna try to keep it efficient. Jedi Survivor is an improvement over Fallen Order, but not by much. It also depends heavily if you're a Star Wars fan or not. I am indifferent towards the franchise, meaning no love or hate. And it enables me to give you a clear answer right at the beginning of this video. If you're a Star Wars fan, you will love Jedi Survivor. If you're indifferent or don't like Star Wars, then by not playing the game you aren't missing much and you don't have to feel bad for skipping it. But it doesn't mean you won't enjoy it after picking it up. Played the game on PC and optimization still wasn't good enough for after almost a month, which is gonna be accounted for in the final score. There are still frame rate issues no matter how good PC you got. Graphically, game looks fantastic, especially planets and locations. Even though I don't have much knowledge about Star Wars outside of movies, it seems to me Respawn have done fans justice with all the details. Even that would be typically a boring location like space station, small details make it quite comfortable and familiar. They often manage to make locations more interesting with many different traversal methods and distant viewscapes. Same goes for characters and enemies. Amazing attention to detail which makes it even more fun killing enemies in many different ways and talk to NPCs for additional information. Scuba Steph being my favorite next to a couple other interesting aliens.
So, you wish to prick up your ears and receive the tale of Scuba?
Audio work is phenomenal, proper Star Wars sound effects which makes everything better, especially lightsaber fights. Great voiceovers complemented by great facial animations. From graphical and audio aspect except optimization, game is phenomenal.
Scratch. Bad shot. Quick. Help! Stim!
Jedi Survivor, just like Fallen Order, is an action-adventure story-driven game, but now with more side stuff to do. It is a bigger and a bit better game than the first one, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, RPG light elements are here again, and it is as pointless system as ever. Locking moves and force powers behind experience wall in such a game has no real benefit. Having more options from the start would be far better idea, and if you need to lock some powerful upgrades, then lock them behind story progression. Not pointless experience system. Especially locking some advanced moves that aren't even worth the upgrade points on higher difficulties due to how animations work. Having to choose between upgrades like potentially a move that looks cool but is inefficient or passive meter increase is a no-brainer, which also limits players' arsenal to when eventually we would have enough points to get to the additional moves that would be otherwise skipped. So for majority of the game, most moves won't be even tested properly on different enemy types. In general, RPG elements don't have place in games like these, as they offer nothing of value. I get that they tried copying Soul system to a degree, but Souls games have much deeper character progression in place. Big new thing are stances. Now that is something that games like these need much more than any superficial RPG light elements. Big plus for Jedi Survivor, as each of 5 stances have different animations, reach and benefits. Stance system adds a lot of diversity of what is otherwise very basic combat. Now to talk about combat. It is quite basic, but for me fun nonetheless, due to great sound effects, enemy detail, satisfying ragdoll mechanic and lightsabers. I love lightsabers, so having them in almost full glory with well-detailed Star Wars enemies to test on is quite a feeling. Why almost full glory? Well, like in the first game, there is that dismemberment issue. They tried to implement predetermined dismemberments through finishing moves and against monsters, but it lacks proper free flow, far from where it should be. Combat is kinda too rigid in a way that there is no free flow. Enemies have predetermined attacks with almost no variety. AI is quite poor as in what kind of challenge they offer, because it is always the same attack patterns, of which there are 2 to 3 per enemy type. There are enough enemy types divided into monsters and humans, but the way they act is very basic. Animations are very good for the most part, but moving around during combat is not done well. Combat is too slidey for the lack of better explanation. What I mean is that everyone slides and covers a lot of distance while attacking, which makes combat a bit clunky. There is some depth to combat though, and it comes through a combination of force powers and stances. For example, using push power right before enemy attack connects can interrupt them, which then buys a split millisecond to counterattack. There is some frame manipulation and tactics, but not much. I think they can potentially improve combat a lot if they decide to invest into better AI and a more free-flow approach. Some sort of attack cancel would be nice as well, but it is not as bad in this game without it, like in many other games, because lightsaber attacks are very fast. However, long attack animations are problematic still on higher difficulties, because enemies punish those too easy, which is mostly due to lack of more detailed frame manipulation. Overall, combat is far more enjoyable considering how basic it actually is. Stances help a lot in that. Boss fights are alright overall, but they tend to differ a lot in quality. A couple of them are very nice, but mostly fall into mediocre to decent category. What combat lacks is even more emphasized in these boss fights.
Did you really think you could capture me? You've got classified military intel
Story revolves again around Cal, who is phenomenally acted, same as other characters, except Marin's voiceover, which is very annoying.
Reflected in all the places and people I encountered. Dathomir will always be my home, but it does not need to define me.
Even though story is predictable and quite generic, they went full in with presentation and plot resolutions. Pretty similar to movies in quality, but thankfully not the last two. In games, getting a chance to visit planets in detail like in Jedi Survivor adds a lot more to these stories through presentation factor. There are some very epic action moments throughout the story that are gonna blow your mind. Cal grows over time to explore his dark side by struggling with reality of all the people that have died due to his actions or inactions. Thankfully, he is surrounded with a lot of interesting characters that keep his focus where it needs to be. Desperate fight against Empire can be potentially changed at least a bit in favor of the Jedi if they could find a secret planet where no one can reach them, which would serve as a base and a training ground. Decent story, but nothing more. Presentation saves it more than anything else. Side content is decent, but nothing special. There is plenty to do, like challenging trials, collectibles and general exploration for upgrades, but overall it still has the same problem as the first game, which is very unrewarding exploration. Getting a color change for Droid's head or one part out of 7 of a lightsaber is not something I would consider worthwhile, especially on highest difficulty where you die from a couple hits. At times rewards are much better through health and force meter upgrades, but those are minimal as well. Have to commend amazing minigame holo battles that could be a game in itself if given enough attention. Great idea for some side fun.
Now that's a holo kill! Estes triumphs!
I also think there is too much platforming at times and not enough battles in story-focused missions, but that might be entirely subjective. Have to commend Holomap, one of the best maps I have seen in gaming. It shows so many things and in a very clear way. For a game where most locations have floors, good map is essential and they have nailed it. Last thing to mention is enemy dialogue while fighting Cal. Stumbled upon few very funny ones, while others make encounters more immersive due to how much they make sense. Fantastic little detail. Final verdict. Since I'm indifferent towards Star Wars franchise, for me Jedi Survivor is a good game, so score is 7 with the same potential. There aren't many big things game could change drastically that could affect the score, but nonetheless it is a good game no matter how I look at it. It is a good platform to build on for the future, but they need to polish combat, forget about the useless things like RPG light progression and create a different reward system. Anyway, thanks for watching.